buy-to-let is dead.
Is buy-to-let dead? Well, the answer is actually yes.
Buy-to-let is dead.
Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise.
Let's turn the negativity around and stop blaming landlords for everything that's wrong with rental properties.
Hello, mate.
Hey.
I'm gonna have to put your rent up. Do you have to? Wish I didn't, mate, but market value. Ugh. So you just want to make more money? I wish I was making money. God, no, the costs are crazy. Oh, and you're making your costs my costs. You wouldn't know this, but it's really hard when you've got to manage 6 properties. 6? Yeah, it's super stressful. So are you gonna pay? Cause I'll get someone else. Yes, I have to. Great. Oh, you're just going to fix the cupboard? See you in here, mate.
Ever wondered why private rents are rising so fast in the UK? You might conclude that private landlords are busy lining their pockets. The government, shelter and individuals on social media have all created a perfect storm, which taken together has made it much worse for tenants. Government and councils have increasingly identified landlords as cash cows, so more tax and more local licensing, all stripping out as much profit as possible. Pressure groups like Shelter have long demonised private landlords. And private individuals on platforms like TikTok are entirely comfortable calling landlords parasites. With all of those concentrated attacks from those different sources, what do you think is going to be the outcome? Well, landlords are now leaving the sector in unprecedented numbers. Councils, governments, Shelter, and the haters on TikTok, you've managed together to create something special. Much less choice and much higher rent. Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, they are, Laura. Yes, they are. Quite dramatically, actually, to the point where I work full-time and cannot physically afford rent in the city in which I wish to reside. Probably talking about mortgage repayments, aren't you, hun? But no, I'm talking about rent. I'm talking about renting a 1-bedroom shoebox flat, which, funnily enough, is actually currently on the market for £1,100 a month. The bathroom is communal. I rang up a property on Rightmove yesterday. It had been on the website for 13 minutes. 13 minutes. I was number 15 in the queue. Oh! At what point are we all just going to decide that we're just not going to do it anymore? Where do I go from here? Where do we go from here, guys? I'm laughing because otherwise I'll cry.
I live with my partner, and so obviously the rent is halved. There is no way at all I can see, even probably in the next 3 years, that I would have been able to afford where I live now on my own. And that's scary because it's sort of, I'm sure for a lot of people, they're reliant on their relationship to sort of help with their living situation.
Do you not think that that's often what keeps,
Keeps people together?
Can someone explain to me how the average rent for a room, not a house, but a room in London is £1,000? Like, how are people surviving off these numbers? Wait, they aren't.
I'm selling up. I've had enough. The interest rates are killing me. I'm done. Like every other landlord, I'm selling up.
Buy-to-let and HMO landlords who own properties in their own name can no longer offset their mortgage interest against their rent. So what's the problem with that? Well, let's say the mortgage interest, when Section 24 came in, was £500 per calendar month, and the rent that you've got coming in is £1,000. What you used to be able to do is offset that £500 mortgage interest against the rent and only declare £500 as income. So this is for landlords who own buy-to-lets and HMOs in their own name. Now, vast majority of landlords that still applies to, right? People who own buy-to-lets and HMOs in their own name, and they've got mortgages on them, and they used to be able to offset that mortgage interest against the rent, so reducing the amount of income that you need to declare to HMRC, and obviously reducing your tax bill. So Section 24 has removed the mortgage interest relief, and so now you get £1,000 worth of rent and you have to declare the full £1,000 as income.
Priscilla is now desperate to find somewhere new for them to live. But despite applying for 20 properties and searching at all hours of the day, securing somewhere new to live has proved impossible.
I will have viewing to go and view the house, like I have one today. And then because there is so many people, viewers, and then people will offer more on top of the rent there actually is. So it's the landlord decision at the end of the day, and he will choose, I guess, whoever is strongly financial. And I'm working, and my son is working.
So you've got two incomes?
Yeah.
Did you ever think it would be this hard?
No, not at all.
The accidental landlord couple gets together, let's rent out the previous house that we've had. It's not necessarily that viable, particularly because of changes in taxation. If the property is owned in a personal name, they may decide, look, done enough with this, I've made some money as it's gone up in price, and they're selling. But with those properties leaving the rental market and going to the sales market, there's going to be a deficit in properties, which means, you know, we're saying at the moment, literally tenants are in a lot of cases almost having to like audition to rent a property. Like, here's my CV of rentals, this is how much, not just, yeah, I'll take it, but I'm going to offer slightly less. The market is completely shifted in the rentals.
This point right here, part of the reason why I had to move further out of London is because of this. Like, the rent was cheaper locally, like in zone 4. But like the cost then for transport is the thing that is just like now thinking, should I just leave London completely? It's just not affordable. And even then there's not really an incentive to actually try and buy a home because of the way mortgage rates are looking like. I saw Felicia, who's an amazing economist, she's the founder of the Black Economist Network, share this tweet thread on an FT article that came out recently. I'm just going to screenshot it here. And it's just like, can you win in this country unless you're partnered and your partner both has like a stable job as well? Because like low-key, it's gotten to the point now where I'm just like, I don't know if it's actually affordable to be single in London. I don't know.
Today I want to talk about an interesting trend in the market that's caught our attention. Many private landlords are selling their buy-to-let properties, and we wanted to explore why this is happening and what it means for the rental market. Let's dive in. Buy-to-let has always been seen as a lucrative investment, providing a steady rental income and capital appreciation. However, things have changed. Research shows that nearly a third of UK landlords plan to sell at least one property in 2023. Why is this? Well, several factors are at play. One major factor is changes in taxation policies. The introduction of a 3% stamp duty levy on additional buy-to-let properties has obviously made it harder for landlords to make a profit. Mortgage interest rate tax relief has also been limited, resulting in higher taxes for landlords. These changes, along with new regulations, have made it less profitable for landlords to invest in buy-to-let properties.
So, update is that actually guidance of sort of anywhere between 5 to 10% is standard, but that's not legislation. However, I reckon that it's kind of harassment with intent under the Protection from Eviction Act, because basically you're doing something that's interfering with that quiet right to enjoy your home, and it's kind of a civil tort of breach of contract, or at least that's the direction I've gone with it. So basically the way I'm saying it is that really this is harassment under the Protection from Eviction Act, because you're doing something that is knowingly taking away their rights with the intent that they will move out, because effectively he can't afford that. Now, as it happens, it has been negotiated down, but still an extortionate amount. I wouldn't have accepted it, but they've signed a new tenancy agreement for another year.
A rental platform has forecast that within 12 months, the average UK tenant could be paying £800 a year more in rent. And in some regions, that could be even more.
Prices are spiralling. I know friends who have struggled, literally they've lost flats because the landlord's gone, I want an extra 200 quid from you for the next year, and they've gone, well, obviously I can't afford to pay that. Then they get trapped in the absolute hellish process of trying to rent a property where they're asked to pay deposits on flats that they haven't seen.
This is nuts, but this is what's going on in London at the moment. Just before I rented this place, there was another place that I was looking at that ended up going to someone that put down 2 years worth of rent without even having gone for a viewing. Rent's out of control, and I feel so bad for our current generation, especially here in the UK, because housing's unaffordable and now rent is going in the same direction. To raise rent by £200 in a single month is nuts. I'd say we're gonna have people living at home until their 30s, but we already have that.
I'll tell you why landlords are selling their properties, and there's good news and there's bad news. Firstly, rate increases will impact them, and I'll give you a good example of why. So say you've got a mortgage of £200,000, they're currently paying 1.5%, their mortgage payments will be £300 a month. Now with the rate up for review, what's available is closer to 6%, which is going to turn their payments into £1,200 a month. Now the rent they're charging on that property will be less than £1,200 a month. Those numbers come from a real life example of a client I've dealt with this morning. Her first reaction was, going to have to sell. So the good news for the housing market is that there will be more properties up for sale. But what happens to that tenant who now needs to find somewhere new to live? They might not have the means or even the desire to buy a property. They're going to have to rent elsewhere, and more than likely the rent prices are going to go up. And believe it or not, most landlords don't increase the rent unless they have to.
The private rental market in Britain is in disarray. Too many people are looking for too few properties, while the cost of renting has reached record highs. Finding somewhere affordable was a real challenge for this medical student who ended up skipping classes to attend viewings.
I had to look every day at nearly 100 properties each day on multiple sites. I had to have my own personal agent at different estate agents so that I could get them before they were uploaded onto the site. I also went to at least 2 viewings a day, 7 days a week.
It's a classic student flat. She studies on the landing and shares a bathroom and kitchen with 3 others.
So this is my bedroom and this is where my boyfriend's currently working. We're both students and we moved in together because it's the only place where we could afford the rent.
Each student is paying $1,000 a month and they had to put 6 months' rent down in advance.
It was really a soul-destroying experience, really. It took forever, and we were often outbid or our offers were declined many times. So.
There's long been a housing shortage in Britain for both renters and home buyers. For years, successive governments have failed to meet new housing targets, and the imbalance between supply and demand has grown significantly. According to the property website Rightmove, demand for rental properties is up 41% compared to 2019, while the number of rental properties on the market has fallen by 35%. In 2019, there were an average of 8 people inquiring after each new rental property. Today, that's jumped to 25, up from 20.
You yourself been affected by the housing crisis, you know, coinciding with the cost of living crisis?
Yeah, I was evicted last year because the landlord put up the rent by £400.
£400 a month?
£400 a month, and I can't afford that. I don't know anyone who can afford that, and that's horrible. That's just a common story that we're hearing every day.
How much of your income would it have been to pay that £400 a month increase? Like, would it have been like half your income, like, you know, a ridiculous proportion of your income?
Well, it's already half, so it would have been like maybe 60-70% of my income going on my rent, just for my rent, working half my week just to pay my landlord.